Hey, welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Well, it's been a long stretch, but we've come to the end of the complications. Now, just because I haven't covered your complication is because I don't know anything about it. And you really need to learn how to live with diabetes and to be sensible about things. It does no good for any doctor or nurse to pretty well sit there and yell at you that, if it doesn't get up here, it's not going to help. And so often I will hear, oh, well, that will never happen to me. Well, yes, it will. And, for years I would pick and choose, what kind of things I would do. And then when I started to control my blood sugars, it was too late. So if you have young kids who are about ready to start taking care of their own blood sugars, they need to learn. They don't need to be scared. And that these videos I put out aren't meant for people to be scared. It's what I live with. Doesn't mean that it's what you're going to be living with. And so often, I think people tend to think, oh God, I'm going to lose a leg. Well, when I was diagnosed, that's all I was talked about. And, I'd have trouble controlling my blood sugar, yet I just seemed to get yelled at. And I can remember a doctor he was on the North Shore, and he's a great doctor, don't get me wrong, but he sat me down one day and he kind of yelled at me. Well, not really yelled, kind of had a very serious, you gotta watch your blood sugar, all this will happen. Well, I hope I'm a little bit calmer about things. It wasn't till he actually spoke to the endocrinologist, which should learn that, you know what? Some diabetics are brittle, and Dr. Hunt, years ago, picked up on that. So, what can you do? Now, sometimes I know for myself, I get up every morning, I say, okay, let's do blood sugar. So I do blood sugar. My blood sugar's through the roof. Well, we try to correct it. Some days I'm great. And other days but days like this, I don't let it get to me. I don't sit there with a negative attitude saying, oh, I can't control my blood sugar. Or, oh, I'm brittle. We can't control my blood sugar. I might as well go out there and do everything. No, it doesn't work. A lot of when I tell you stuff and say it doesn't work, this is to pretty well inform you so that you learn and you don't do the same things I've done. But it's not meant to, oh yes, your blood sugar will be high and you'll get complications for sure. Some people have had diabetes for years and don't have any complications. Chances are it's because they have controlled their blood sugar. And, a lot of times it all starts with the plan. And I know most of you are rolling your eyes. If you've been watching these videos, you know I talk about this plan. What is this plan you keep talking about? Well, first of all, my plan won't work for you. Straight out. You need to sit down with your doctor. You need to ask, okay, when I'm sick, what happens? What am I going to do? If I start showing ketones, what am I going to do? There's very few people who want to end up in the hospital. God forbid. The only thing the hospital has really ever done for me is to help me get back on track. I'll try to keep my hands away from my face. And if I had learned earlier to stick with it. Now, if my blood sugar goes high, I'll correct. But I need to sit down with your diabetic nurse. You need to sit down with your diabetic nurse, your dietitian, your endocrinologist, come up with a plan of what they're all saying, and then take it to your endocrinologist and say, this is the plan. And I can remember I had a 3-ring binder with all these plans set up in there. And believe it or not, it helped me a lot of times stay out of the hospital. Now, this plan isn't meant to be sort of like the end of everything. If nothing works on this plan, you need to get medical help. And a lot of times, if you call your endocrinologist, you will be said either come in or go to emergency. And if you're told to go to emergency, I know I got a piece of hair right there. Go to emergency. But diabetics do a hell of a lot better outside of the hospital. So if you're in the hospital because you can't be controlled, like I was, you need to get out. You need to do something every day. Just sitting there dwelling on diabetes. Well, diabetes is important. It's not the number one thing in everybody's life. And you know what? I bet it isn't in yours either. You have a plan you can follow. Okay, blah, blah, blah. You do your blood sugars, you take your medications, and then go on with your life. I can tell you, once I started controlling my blood sugars, things just go better. And I know when I have to go to the hospital. Now, a hospital isn't going to catch everything. And you're going to go there and, I have horror stories of the hospital. As much as it's done positives for me, there's been a side of it that no one wants to go with. So, do your best out there. Take control of your blood sugars. A blood sugar of 10 is a hell of a lot better than being around 15 all the time. Learn what works for you. And if, somebody says, well, I've been doing this for years and it works, what's the first thing you do? Check with your doctor before you try anything new. The biggest mistakes I ever made was on a trip to Fiji. And they put the insulin in the fridge. Back then, insulin was beef and pork, and it had to be kept cold all the time. So it went in there, and I was asked for the insulin before landing again, and it was taken off the plane, and I flew to Fiji without any insulin. And when dinner came, I didn't have any insulin. And I think I learned how far I could go. But, all this kind of little thinking. Oh, well, I don't need to do that. You need to do that. And do it, because you don't want any of these complications. Trust me. Do the best you can every single day. Perfection isn't achievable. Excellence is. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. And don't let diabetes control you.